Some people say Kish. Some say Kikshi. But the right way of pronouncing the name is what? Abdul Hamid Kish. Inshallah is going to step forward to benefit us with what Allah the Almighty has benefited him with. So let us listen to him attentively. If you have any question, please take notes and ask your questions. Any comment after he's done, we're going to open session for questioning and answers, inshallah. So فليتفضل مشكورا مأجورا. فليتفضل هذا الذي ما فيه
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له قيوم السماوات والأرضين أما بعد. We thank Almighty Allah for an opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Almighty Allah. And we also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and his messenger. If I'm not mistaken, today is the 7th day of Rabiul Thani, a Saturday, 1445 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which I believe corresponds to the 21st day of October 2023. Guys, I'm on the table, but I still have my stick next to me. That's just by the way. We all know what's going on now in the Muslim world, especially in Palestine, concerning, the chaos, the death, the destruction that is going on. And I believe as a Muslim Ummah, we need to educate our people concerning the realities on the ground and the truth from the falsehood. A couple of days ago, one of the brothers in the Masjid told me that his kids came from school, and then they were telling him that at school they're being told that the Palestinians are evil people, you're wicked people, you're killing babies. So he had to explain to them the realities on the ground. And I believe it's important that we also shed light on what is going on. And let's understand that the media propaganda going on in the world, it's very, very sophisticated. And Almighty Allah speaks about this in the Quran where He says, وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ تُكَذِّبُونَ. That people eat from telling lies. Meaning their source of livelihood is telling lies. And just last week I saw a video by CNN where there's someone in the back room telling the journalists to act as if they are being attacked by Hamas. And they didn't know that they were already live. And they were telling the journalists that lie down, shoot the road, do this. Yes, you're breathing. I have the video on my phone because of time, but later I'll just play it so that people can see. That lie down, yes, you're breathing, that's good. Just show that you are in panic, show that you are afraid, show that you are scared. And they're saying we'll be going live very soon, but then they're already live. And this is something, the machination going on. So for us in this lecture, or for me personally, it's not about supporting one group or who is right or who is wrong in this. No, it's about shedding the light on the truth of what is going on in Palestine and even other parts of the Muslim world. It's very, very important we understand that. Because if we are not empowered by the right information, the oppressor will look like a victim to you, and the victim will rather be turned into the oppressor. And this is what is happening now in the world. So it's very, very important we get the right message, the right information, so that we empower ourselves. The history of Palestine is something that we can start talking about. What is the history of the place? When we know the right history of the place, will be able to decipher the truth from falsehood. When some people say they are the original indigenes of the land belongs to them, that they are the ones who are the chosen people to live there, this narrative, how true it is. And don't forget, the theme for our family night is Islam's perspective on peace and justice. Because when we understand these things, we understand how well we can profess peace, and how well the justice must be established. Al-Quds, or the city of Jerusalem, is one of the oldest still inhabited cities in the world. When I say one of the oldest still inhabited cities, it means it is a city since its inception. People are living there till now. And it is documented that the people who live there formed the city around 4000 BC, which is about 6,000 years ago. So the city of Jerusalem has been in existence for more than 6,000 years. And the language that is being spoken at that area is reported to be the Canaan language. And the Canaan language is considered an extinct form of the Arabic language. So technically, the people who founded the city were generations or ancestors of the Arab nation. People or different nations will conquer the city and it becomes theirs from time to time. Until Ibrahim ﷺ migrated and then came to that area. It's a long story. And then later he left there. To cut a long story short, Ibrahim had two sons. He had Ismail and then he had Ishaq. And Ishaq gave birth to Yaqub. And Yaqub is considered Israel or Israel. But then don't forget the story of Yusuf. How many of us remember the story of Yusuf? Yusuf was sold into slavery into Egypt, right? But then later his family joined him when he became the king of Egypt, right? So Israel, who is Yaqub, the father of Yusuf, moved the whole family, 12 brothers, mothers, sisters, the whole family, they moved to Egypt and then they lived with what? With Yusuf in Egypt. The question now comes, when they moved to Egypt, were people still living in Canaan or not? Yes or no? Yes, there were people there. Before they came there, were people living there or not? Yes, people were there. When they were in Egypt for all those years, were people there or not? Yes, people were there. Now the question moves on. That afterwards, Yusuf dies, descendants upon descendants. In the end, Bani Israel, the children of Israel, the children of Yaqub, have become a huge nation, huge population. Some historians put them at about 60,000 people or more. But they were in slavery. And then Almighty Allah brings Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and Musa leads them out of Egypt into that area, Canaan. Now the question is, when they left Egypt and then they came into Canaan, were people living there or not? People were still living there. Now this is just a brief history of maybe 4,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago. Now fast forward, Israel or the children of Israel stay there. They build a kingdom, the time of Suleiman and Dawood before him. But then the Babylonians come and they attack them, they push them into slavery. They come back, the Assyrians come and then they destroy them. So that land had been between wars here and there. But then, fast forward, during the time of Umar bin Khattab, in the 15th year of Hijrah, that is when Muslims took over the city of what? Of Jerusalem. But before the advent of Islam, there were people still living there. And when the Romans took over a city, and then they later became the Roman Catholic Church, what they did was that they expelled all the Jews from the city. All the Jews were kicked out of the city. So by the time that Umar ibn Khattab comes and he takes over the city of Jerusalem, there were no Jews in there. And Umar, when the Muslims took over the city, there was no bloodshed. Not a single person was killed when the Sahaba, under the leadership of Abu Ubaidah, took over the city. No human being was killed. So when Umar enters the city, he asks, the bishop then, the Archbishop of Jerusalem, that where are the Jewish quarters? And they couldn't show them the Jewish quarters. The Jewish quarters were all abandoned. The place was dirty. Umar ibn Khattab took off his own scarf together with the rest of the Sahaba, and then they cleaned the Jewish quarters, and Umar allowed the Jews to be back into the city of Jerusalem. So it was us Muslims that allowed the Jews to be back. Fast forward all these years, Jerusalem is under the Muslim power. Everybody lives there peacefully. Muslims were living in Jerusalem. Jews were living in Jerusalem. Christians were living in Jerusalem. Everybody was there. A vibrant city, a beautiful city, but under the leadership of the Muslim Empire.
So we conquered the place with no bloodshed.
We conquered the place with no bloodshed.
Wow.
When the Muslims came, because during the time of Umar ibn Khattab, listen guys, during the time of Umar ibn Khattab, when the Muslim Empire was expanding, right after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr Siddiq sends out armies to the Persian Empire, to the Roman Byzantine Empire. All the cities in Sham, when we say Sham, is present-day Syria. But then not only the country Syria, but Lebanon, Jordan, all those countries there are considered Sham. Hey, Abu, our Abu your head. Listen guys, listen. So the cities that were in Sham, that were conquered by the Muslim army, it's only Jerusalem that the Muslims didn't enter it with force. All the other cities were taken through wars, but then Jerusalem, because we consider Jerusalem as a holy place. Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in an authentic hadith says, لا تشد الرحال إلا إلى ثلاثة مساجد. That a Muslim is not encouraged to prepare himself for a journey to worship except to 3 mosques. The first one is the mosque in Mecca, the second one is the mosque in Medina, and the third one is the Masjid in Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis, Masjid al-Aqsa. So for us Muslims, Bayt al-Maqdis, Palestine, Quds is a holy place. And within Islamic law and legislation, holy places are not attacked. So for example, in Mecca and Medina, it is haram for you to hold a weapon. So in Mecca, you don't hold weapons. In Medina, you don't hold weapons. In Jerusalem, you don't hold weapons. This is the position of Islam on that. Don't pass in front of the camera, man. So come this way. So we didn't enter the city with force. Not a single soul was lost when the Muslims took over Jerusalem. And when they were taking over Jerusalem, after they laid siege to the city, the Archbishop told the Muslim army that they will only hand over the keys of Jerusalem to a specific person. And that specific person is being described in their books. So some of the Muslim army leaders will go and they will tell them, no, you're not the one. And then they sent a letter to Umar. Umar was in Medina and they are in Jerusalem. A journey of more than a month. And then they sent a letter to Umar. Umar, this is what the Archbishop of Jerusalem is saying, that they won't hand over the keys to the city except to someone who is a Muslim. So Umar ibn Khattab come. So that journey, Umar with his young boy, with only one horse. So Umar will mount the horse. After a time, Umar will come down, and then the boy will mount the horse. After some time, he will come down, and then the horse will walk all alone, so that the horse will be what? Will not be tired. So this was a sign of the person who is going to what? Take over the keys of the city of Jerusalem. And the astonishing fact was that it says when they were going to enter Jerusalem,
the leader will be walking, and then the boy will rather be on a horse. And that's what happened. When they got to Jerusalem, Umar was the one walking, and the boy was on top of the horse, because by the time they got to Jerusalem, it was the turn of the boy to ride the horse. So they said, yes, this is the guy who is going to, and then they gave the keys to Umar ibn Khattab. And Umar enters the city. Nobody was killed, number one. Number two, the archbishop wanted Umar ibn Khattab to enter the Holy Sepulchre. And Umar ibn Khattab said, no, I'm not going to enter there, because if I enter there, maybe after me, a Muslim leader will come, and then he will feel he has a right to enter into the place, which is your holy place, your safe place. No Muslim must trespass there. So to cut a long story short, the Muslims took over the city. That's it. But then something happened in 1096. We are in which year now? 2023. Something happened in 1096. So I want you guys to just do the maths for me. Who can do the maths for me? How many years ago is that? So take out 1096 from 2023. I don't want any random guesses. I just want an exact year. Take out 1096 from 2023. Oh, yes. Anybody? 1096. Take out 1096 from 2023. Yes. Come again. 1027? 927. So 927 years ago, the Pope. You know the Pope? Who knows the Pope? The Pope is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. He is based in Rome today. So the Roman Catholic Church has been in existence for more than 1,000 years, close to 2,000 years. So the Pope in Rome calls a meeting. And the meeting was that how are they going to take Jerusalem back into the Roman Empire and back into the Christian Empire. Are you guys listening? I'm giving you important information. So the Pope organizes a meeting in Rome. The Roman Emperor attends, and some other Catholic bishops and heads of Christian organizations attend that meeting. And the meeting was that they want to take Jerusalem from the Muslims. Because since 733 or 711, the Muslim Empire has been in control of Jerusalem. So for close to 400 years or 300 years or more, Jerusalem was under the Muslim Empire. So now the Pope decides to send an army into Jerusalem to take Jerusalem away from the Muslims. And don't forget, I said Jerusalem has Muslims, Jews, and Christians in there. Jerusalem was not exclusively Muslim. No. Everybody was there. And these guys know it. So in 1095, they had the meeting. In 1096, there was a guy called Peter the Hermann. He was a German. He decided to start the crusade. So they call it crusade. And the crusade is a word that means in aid of the cross. So they were going for a holy war in the name of what? The cross. So in 1096, Peter the Hermann gathered some poor people, some peasants, and then in Germany, they killed 2,000 Jews. They killed them, 2,000 Jews. And then they maimed about 7,000 Jews. And then they moved to Jerusalem. But then these guys, when they got to Constantinople, who knows Constantinople? Mm-hmm. Yes, Makula, do you know Constantinople? Yes, what's Constantinople? Perfect. That's a place. Oh. Come for a dollar. 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 No, take it to your right hand. Take it to your right hand. Come for a dollar. I wasn't expecting her to know this answer. Constantinople is today called Istanbul. Have we heard of Istanbul? Where is Istanbul? Istanbul is in Turkey. So Istanbul used to be called Constantinople. And Constantinople was the city built by Constantine, Emperor Constantine. He was an old emperor who accepted Christianity just to, mess up with Christianity. And then he built a city and then he named the city after him, Constantinople. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted that the Muslims are going to take over Constantinople. So in Arabic it is called Constantiniya. So this army goes to Constantinople, and at that time the Muslims have built another city called Nicaea, opposite Constantinople. The river Bosphorus is between them. If you go to Turkey, there's a river. Those of you who have been to Turkey, there is that. So they were opposite it. Just to cut a long story short, that army was not successful. They were crushed. But then in 1097, a year later, another group moved. This time they were not poor people. They were mostly from France. The big men from, hey, young man, why are you messing with mine? What's wrong with you? Nobody asked you to touch it. Move back. So in 1097, they came to attack the Holy Land. So to cut a long story short, by 1099, they have gone to Jerusalem. But before they got to Jerusalem in 1099, in 1098, they got to a city called Mahara. What's the name of the city?
Mahara.
Mahara, in 1098. Do you know what they did in Mahara? Mahara had a population of 20,000 people. They slaughtered all of them. And then they cooked their meat and then they ate it.
Hey! Hey! Allah.
This is what the Crusaders did. In 1098, they got to a city called Mahara. They killed 20,000 people. And then they cooked their meat and then they ate it. These things that I'm telling you, these are all documented. I have them written here. Since last week, I was preparing for this lecture. And this is even 10% of what I found out. Tomorrow, the Sirah class, I'm going to speak about Beit al-Quds, and I'm going to have about an hour and I'll speak more on that, on some of this information. So I'm just giving you a summary today. So if you want to hear more, you come tomorrow after Maghrib. Inshallah. So that's what they did in Mahara in 1098. In 1099, they got to Jerusalem. And let me say this. Jerusalem at that time was in the hands of As-Salajika, the Seljuks. And the Seljuks were Turks. At that time, they had a competition between them and the Fatimids. The Fatimids were Shia. So the Fatimids, went and then they attacked the Seljuks and then they took the city from them because the Fatimids have already had an agreement with the Roman Empire. So they thought when they take over Jerusalem, the Roman Empire will leave them to continue to control Jerusalem, and then the Romans will take care of other cities. But no. What they did was that they laid siege in the end when they took over Jerusalem. So guys, listen. This is an important point I want to make. When the Crusaders, the Christians from Europe, when they got to Jerusalem and they took Jerusalem, the first thing they did was they went to the Muslim quarters and they slaughtered everybody there. They killed them. From the Muslim quarters, they went to the Jewish quarters. Don't forget, I said in Jerusalem, Muslims, Christians, and Jews were all living peacefully. So they went to the Jewish quarters and then they slaughtered them too. By this time, the Christians, were shitting their pants. Because they've seen what is being done to the Muslims. They've seen what is done to the Jews. So they were there and then they were just messing themselves. And don't forget, these Crusaders, they said they were what? They were Christians. So at least, what do? You can leave your Christian what? Your Christian members. But no, when they got to the Christian quarters, the Christians in Jerusalem at that time were Orthodox Christians. And these guys were already Catholic what? Christians. So they massacred them too. Those who were left alive were forced into Catholicism, and then their bishops were replaced by what? By other Christian bishops from the Catholic world. So that is what in what year? 1099. 91 years later. How many years later? 91 years later, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi came and then he took over the city. And when he was also taking over the city, just like Umar bin Khattab, not a single person was killed in Jerusalem. Now fast forward. In 1880, how many, what did I say? 1880. We are in 2023 now. So take 1880 out of 2023 and tell me how many years ago? 143 years ago. A new movement in Europe sprung up called Zionism. What's the name of the movement? Zionism. And the idea of Zionism is that they must return all the Jews back to the Holy Land. Because for them, the Holy Land, Jerusalem, is their birthright. They must be there. And understand one thing. There's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. Judaism is the religion of the Jews. Just a simple definition. It's more broad than that. But then Zionism is a secular political movement. That is why you find some Jews who do not support the occupation of Palestine. I'll come there. So in 1880, they decided to form this movement called Zionism, where they must what? They must return the Jews back to what? To Jerusalem, or to Palestine in general. So unofficially, they started migrating. But then it didn't strengthen or become so powerful until 1914. And 1914 is what? Is about 100 and something years ago. 109 years ago. That's why this one I'm good at the maths here. For this one I'm good at the maths. 109 years ago. So at that time, the British were in control of Palestine. They deceived the Muslims, the Ottoman Empire, and they had control of Jerusalem and that area. So they supported the migration of Jews from Europe to Palestine. In 1948, before that, there were some terrorist groups called the Haganah, the EA, and all these other groups who had come into Jerusalem, and then they were terrorizing the local communities. Guys, are you listening? So, in 1948, that's about 80-something years ago, right? 80-something years ago. The Jews decided to leave. The British decided to leave. When they were leaving, they gave all their weapons to who? To the what? The Zionists. So what the Zionists did on that same day in 1948, when the British said, we are no longer here, take the weapons. They declared a state that they are a state now. The French supported it. The United States supported it. And then the British themselves supported it. On that same day, something happened called the Nakba, where they drove out 750,000 Palestinians from their home. This is the genesis of the occupation in Gaza, West Bank, and Palestine. I've just given you, within how many minutes? 20 minutes, a 6,000-year history of the place. So it's not something easy. For example, the occupation from 1948 up to now is about 74 years, where they are being killed, bombarded every day. Their kids are being murdered. And all these things is going on, and then the international community is silent. So for us Muslims, what is our position on this? Just to end. Number one, the issue of Palestine is a humanitarian issue, which means it must worry every human being. Because you cannot be in your home for thousands of years, and then someone comes in as a refugee. You take them in, you give them a place to stay, you give them jobs to do, and then afterwards they tell you the house belongs to them. They kill your wife, kill your mother, kill your kids, and then they kick you out of the house, and then you are being told, keep quiet, don't cry, don't complain, endure. No, this is wrong. And then whenever you cry, you are being told, keep quiet, enjoy, just endure it. So it's a humanitarian cause. That's one. Number two, it is an Islamic cause. When I say it's an Islamic cause, because Madinatul Quds, Jerusalem, is a holy shrine for us Muslims. From the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also the verse in the Quran in Surah Al-Isra, where the Almighty Allah speaks about the journey of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Mecca to Bayt al-Maqdis. So we hold Bayt al-Maqdis in high esteem. So it is what? An Islamic cause for us. So as Muslims, wherever we are in the world, Quds is in our hearts. So this latest event that has happened about a week ago or 10 days ago, that Hamas went into, the Israeli territories, and then they committed some actions, and then they kidnapped some people. Let's speak a little bit about the history of Hamas so that you understand that too. Hamas was started yesterday. The khutbah, I delivered somewhat khutbah like this at Jeremy, and someone didn't understand what I said. So I'm going to just put more light on what I said. Hamas was started by one man called Sheikh Yassin. He used to be a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He was a blind sheikh. And then they started a political movement in Gaza, an Islamic political movement to help the Muslims retain their lands and protect themselves. That's how Hamas started. At the same time, there was Fatah of Yasser, what's the guy's name? Yasser Arafat. So these were two rival groups, Palestinian groups, fighting for the independence of Palestine. But then Yasser Arafat's group, they were more secular. But then Sheikh Yassin's group are more religious. So what the Israeli government did at that time was that they wanted to divide and rule. Because if the these two groups, they come together, they're going to be very powerful and they will fight off the Zionists. So what they did was that, let's keep these two people apart. So they sponsored Hamas. So the Israeli government, these are all declassified information, you can look for them. They supported them with money, they supported them with weapons. So Hamas became very strong, very powerful. And then the PLO, Yasser Arafat, and then his group and then his community were weak because Hamas were very strong. And this helped the Israeli government in the sense that the Palestinians were fighting amongst themselves, so they didn't have time to think of Israel. So Israel continued to build settlements in the Gaza Strip, in West Bank, and expanding their territories. In the 90s, this was in the 70s to the 80s, in the 90s, the Israeli government realized that Hamas has become so powerful. So what they did was that they assassinated Sheikh Yassin, I think in 1995. They bombed a whole building that he was in to clear him off. So there are a lot of senior Israeli, security couples or captains that have said that Hamas is our baby, we fed it, and now it is back to attack us. I'm not saying I'm in support of Hamas or I'm against Hamas. No, for us Muslims, we don't support the killing of innocent people, irrespective of whoever does it. We don't support mass bombing. We don't support the destruction of buildings. We don't support the cutting down of trees. We don't support the killing of animals. We don't support the killing of women and babies. We don't support the killing of old people. The only ones we are supposed to fight are people who have weapons, who have come to attack us. So anybody who hides somewhere with a drone and then he bombs innocent people, for us the person is a coward, the person is a terrorist, the person is someone who has no humanity in them. So irrespective of it, So don't give me that blanket question that so it means you're supporting Hamas, what they do. No. We do not support any terror act, irrespective of whoever is engaged in it. Especially so long as we all have agreed, the international community have agreed on some rules and regulations concerning welfare, where people do not bomb buildings, we don't bomb hospitals, we don't bomb synagogues, no mosques, no churches, we don't bomb all those places. These are sacred places that our deen determines for us to safeguard those places. So this last incident, this is what has happened. And for us Muslims, we condemn the everyday harassment, the disrespect that the Palestinian people have gone through for the past 74 years. We condemn it in no. The solution to the problem is that everybody should respect international law. People who are invading other people's homes should stop. The international law should take heed. That's yes, so I think I can give you a chance to ask some questions. And
Allah reward our Sheikh for this beneficial reminder. If you have any question, please, you are welcome to ask a question. But Sheikh, you have mentioned that.
are you guys listening?
Hey, sit down, hey, sit down.
You have mentioned that what the Jews or the Zionists are doing is horrible. And you also mentioned that Hamas is created by the Jews. And that what they did was also wrong. So, who do we support in this? Are we saying that both of them are wrong? Now, why do we...
Now you guys sit down, hey.
I think the Sheikh has asked a very sheikhatic question. That's a new word, that's my word. So if you see it anywhere, give me the copyright. Hamas was not originally created by the Jews or by the Zionists. Hamas was started by Sheikh Yassin, who was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. So that's one, let's understand this. Furthermore, when the Zionists wanted to split, the Palestinian Defense Force, they started to support Hamas, to give them military support and even weapon support, so that the Palestinians will continue to fight in-house. So when they continue to fight in-house, they will not be able to turn their attention towards the Israeli settlements to be able to defend themselves. So of course, this is how it started. Now, the question is, who do we support? We support the local people who are being killed day in, day out. Families are being annihilated, they're being wiped off. The local Palestinian person lives in an open prison. Gaza, which is a very small place, has close to 2 million people living there. Now, they cut off their electricity, they cut off their water supply, they cut off their food supply. All in the name of looking for who? Hamas. And how many people are in Hamas? So our concern is with the local people the widow whose husband has been killed, whose sons are young men who cannot help her, or the mother or the son who has lost his parent. These are the people that we are concerned about. So for us, these people must be free. The blockade, the 17-year-old blockade must be taken off so that these people can live their lives peacefully. They are not supposed to be second-class citizens, because what is going on in Palestine is an apartheid. You know what is apartheid? Apartheid is where a group of people are considered second-class citizens in their own homes. Where if you go to the West Bank today, the Israelis have a different roads that they use. The Palestinians go through checkpoints every day. But the Israeli will come and pass. This is apartheid. This is wrong. They don't have access to hospitals. And just a few days ago, my hospital was bombed. At the beginning, hey. When it happened, the Israelis tweeted that they did that because they knew Hamas was there. And then later they changed the narrative that there was a rocket being launched by Hamas, and then it was a failed rocket launch, and then it landed on what? On the hospital. So all these things, whether it was shot by Hamas or whether it was done by the Israeli government, for us it is neither here nor there. What is important is the innocent people that are being killed. That is our answer. That's my headache. The innocent people that are being killed, whether it is coming from the side of the Israeli or whether it's coming from the side of Hamas. And then, Chef, to further clarify your question, the answer, Hamas is mainly found in Gaza. In the West Bank, there is no Hamas. But then again, people are being killed in the West Bank. So for us, it's about the innocent people and not necessarily what the government or the politicians or the journalists or the social commentators say. It's about the poor people who do not have access to water, who do not have access to electricity, who do not have access to food, who do not have access to healthcare.
So with that being said, the best thing to do is for both of them to have like a peaceful agreement.
Of course.
The ceasefire, right?
There must be a ceasefire. They must come to a round table and discuss truthfully. And all the superpowers in the world must be truthful in this. That's why my khutbah yesterday was, do we really need the peace in the Middle East, or we are just acting like we need peace? For me, I believe we are all just acting like we need peace. But if we really need peace, we will say, this is international law. This is crime against humanity. This must stop. Because if it doesn't stop, if the occupation doesn't stop, if the bombings of innocent people do not stop, if I know that you killed my whole family, I will still have hatred towards you no matter what. So we need to stop the killing of innocent people.
So I guess we'd love to
The Sheikh says he has another question.
You mentioned,
This is a senior most question.
you
I think
mentioned,
Muslim has a question.
yeah, no, let me finish this. You mentioned about the Muslim Brotherhood.
No.
Who are they?
The Sheikh, the Muslim Brotherhood, who are they? That's also another lecture on its own. Actually, the Muslim Brotherhood started in Egypt. The likes of Hassan al-Banna, you know that better than me because you were in Egypt and you studied in Egypt. So, listen guys, the Muslim Brotherhood started, basically as a humanitarian body.
be quiet and listen.
Well, hey guys, listen.
Hey, what are you guys doing over there?
It started as a humanitarian body where they were helping the poor and then the vulnerable. That's how it all started. But then later it metamorphosized into a religious political group that wanted power. Because they realized that if they get power, they'll be able to do the things, the humanitarian things that they were already doing. So this is just the idea behind the Muslim Brotherhood. But then, as time went by, of course, movements will have their own shortcomings, they will have their strength, they will have, their good side and then, their bad side. But then that is how the Muslim brotherhood started? And Sheikh, please add some point there because you know that better than me. Oh no. No, you know.
Just for you to have more insight about the Muslim Brotherhood, it's an Islamic movement. They have good intention, but then they did not follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as all of you know, in order for any action to be legit and recognized by the Deen, it has to meet two conditions. The first is al-ikhlas, good intention, and the second is al-mutaba'ah, meaning it has to be in confirmation with the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Their goal is we want to establish Sharia, we want, Islam to prevail. But then the methodology that they have adopted towards accomplishing that goal is very off. You understand? Because they rebel against their owners of authority, which lead to bloodshed and instability, killing of innocent souls. And it's an ongoing thing until today. Right? That's why the scholars said they are not upholding the manhaj of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So the Muslim Brotherhood, they don't represent Islam. One thing you have to understand is a political movement like any other political movement. If they do something that is right, we praise them for it. But if they did something that is wrong, they are doomed to be condemned.
I think one of the mothers has a question. Okay, the sister asked a question, it's more of a comment and then a question. That is, she realizes that some teachers want to shy away from, discussing some of these contemporary issues. Of course, it's a very sensitive issue, and if you don't do deep research and then you don't take the emotions out of it, you'll muddy the waters further. But then she wants to know what are some of the activities that, as a parent, you can do, homeschooling, to teach your kids some of these stuff. So it's very, very important, number one, that we take our lessons from the Quran. It's very, very important. Number two, we take it from the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number three, we look at authentic history. And this is based mainly on historical activities and historical facts. I don't have any literature that can give you off-head. The ones that I have are all Arabic, that I have off-head, books written by Muhammad ibn Bara, one of the shuyukh in Masr, that they speak more on some of these things. So, but I don't know, maybe the Sheikh has, some books that he has off-head that he can advise us to read in terms of, understanding some of these things. But then, understanding the fiqh, the contemporary fiqh al-waqi is very, very important, that we understand the realities on the ground, what's going on. Because if you do not understand the realities on the ground, we will not be able to give the right solutions to the problems that we face. I think I've answered the question.
Hey guys, yeah.
Okay. So for example, number one, the brotherhood between us as Muslims. Are you guys listening? Guys, listen, this is a question for you and the answer is going straight to you. No, she wants, for their level, for the level of the kids, for them to understand, the concern of Muslims for each other wherever they are in the world, right? Yep.
Quran is.
Okay, she's speaking more of, if I understand what she's saying, from the perspective of that there is a universal challenge for Muslims, wherever we find ourselves. And the challenges might be peculiar or particular to the places that we find ourselves in. But then generally, there is going to be a general solution for that. So number one, Muslims must understand the concept of brotherhood and love for each other. Are you guys listening? Are you listening?
Yes.
The concept of brotherhood and love and concern for each other is very, very important. مثل المؤمنين في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم كمثل الجسد الواحد. The example of the Muslims in the love that they have for each other, in the mercy that they show for each other, in the sympathy they have for each other, is like one body. So irrespective of where we find ourselves, the pain of a Muslim brother, wherever he is or she is what is a pain for all of us. So Muslims, or the guys, understand this. Wherever you are, and you know of a Muslim brother who is in pain, who is in the suffering, there is also your concern. Are you guys listening?
Yes.
I don't think you are.
Eh.
So have that understanding. This is not an issue of only Palestine. It's not an issue of only the Arabs. It's an issue for Muslims too. It's an issue for American Muslims. It's an issue for African Muslims. It's an issue for Indian Muslim, Pakistani Muslims. And then again, the challenges we also face here in America as Muslims, that is also an issue for Muslims who are elsewhere. So the challenges that we face is what? Is a challenge for all of us. So we don't sit and then fold our arms and say, this doesn't concern me, this is not my problem. Okay guys, it's a problem for all of us. If I understood the question, Chef, maybe you have something to add.
Assalamu alaikum. I think she's asking if we can have something from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that we can share with our children so they will have better understanding of how to live this situation that they are facing. I mean, we have tons of examples. You go back to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you go back to the Qasas al-Quran, Bayn al-Anbiya wal-Umam, you will see that this has been the custom of Allah Almighty in this dunya, right? There is always an oppressor who is oppressing the good people. But at the end, al-aqibatu lil-muttaqin. The good end is always to those who keep their duty to Allah. Because people will continue to be tested. We look at the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. They were tortured. Some of them, like Bilal, they stripped his clothes off and they dragged him in the hot desert of Mecca. Sumayya, she was poked from a place of honor until she died. Her husband was killed. Khubayb ibn al-Adi was crucified. The Prophet was forced to leave his own country. When the Prophet was leaving Mecca, he turned and looked at Mecca and he said, "You are the most beloved land to me. Had it not been because of people kicked me out, I would not have left." When they were patient, what happened at the end? Allah the Almighty gave the Muslims, those who are upon the truth, Allah gave them victory. You look at Noah alayhi salatu wasalam, at the end, Allah the Almighty destroyed the wrongdoers. So we have to go back to the stories of the Quran, read this to our children. Surah Al-Qasas, for example, and one of the students will be reading that surah. As a matter of fact, we will read the beginning of the surah. The surah addresses the story of Bani Israel, what they are doing to the people of Palestine today. They themselves went through that in the hand of who? Fir'aun. Fir'aun enslaved them for 400 years. Their males were being butchered, their females were being spared. But at the end, what happened? Allah the Almighty gave the Muslims victory and destroyed Fir'aun and his people. So we just have to put hope in our children, taught them to hold fast to their religion, teach them to rectify their affairs and go back to Allah and keep praying to Allah. And inshallah, Allah Almighty will give them a space victory. Inshallah. We should never give up hope. Inshallah. Alright, now we will have Sheikh Qasim to call some of the students to come and read some verses from the Quran for us, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we have some of our students who are ready to read some verses in the Quran for us, inshallah. What we need to do is we sit and listen to the Quran, because whenever the Quran is reciting, no one must